Give us the essence of your strategy going in to beat a strong incumbent.
We, very early on, and as I took over leadership in this party, the biggest thing I heard from people was, you Republicans need to get younger. So we started to reach out to folks who were not the prototypical Republicans, and we were looking very specifically for 30-somethings and 40-somethings with strong resumes. And as they started to come through the door, the Tom Silmies of the world, the Trish Bergens of the world, the Steve Flatterens of the world, then they really started to come through the door. And this year, the three gentlemen who are at the top of the ticket have had incredible resumes. Not only were they, as everybody probably knows at this point, military personnel, but they had exemplary military records. We're talking about officers. We're talking about Tom Croce, who worked in the Situation Room of the White House. And I was quoted recently, and it kind of resonated, that someone who stands next to the president's integrity is never in question, because they don't just let anybody stand next to the president of the United States.
No, he must have been cleared numerous times.
Yeah. So to get back to the beginning part of your question, the one characteristic of the Islip Republican Committee that I'm very proud of is we don't shy away from hard work. And that is the secret to the formula. I spoke to the Newsday reporter in an article that appeared today, as a matter of fact, or actually appeared in the newspaper. And we had been walking and knocking on doors since back in May and June. While the other side was formulating mail pieces and taking photographs, our guys were knocking on doors. And we went back and we went back and we went back. So it was a little bit of old school, but it was also mixed in with some new school. We had the technology to identify and really pinpoint who we thought were going to be favorable voters. We used our money and our resources, people, more effectively that way, and I think that's really what won the election.
Do you think any Democrats actually crossed the aisle?
Yes.
It would have to happen if you win.
Yes. One of the attractions, or one of the strong points of a Tom Croce candidacy, for those who know him, his parents were longtime educators, teachers, principals, very involved in the community over the years. And we had a considerable number of Democrats who said, I'm voting for Tom Croce.
Even actually, Croce's family, wasn't his dad a football coach?
Basketball. He was actually my basketball coach in high school.
Right?
That's correct.
Yeah, because I had one deliver some stuff to our house here, and he said, his dad was a coach of mine when I was a kid. You know, he's an older guy.
Yeah.
And that was pretty neat.
Yeah, he's Mr. Croce, as we call him, has been a huge part of the Connect Quad community for many, many years. And the Croce family was able to generate so many volunteers, and just a testament to what a great person Tom Croce is.
Right. I'll tell you, and I've met him numerous times, spoke to him several times. He's been on the show several times. What a pleasant guy, bright guy. You know what I liked about it? He really listens. You can tell when you're speaking to him, he's really listening to, what do you want? What can I do for you? And, what's on the table, which is great. Usually politicians, you get to say, there you go again. Right. You don't really have a slew of politicians on the ticket either, right?
Well, I was just going to say, there's the trick right there. He's not a politician.
Yeah.
One of the other favorite things I was saying on the campaign trail often is, these three guys are true, quote-unquote, public servants.
Yeah.
There is no draft in this country anymore. They signed up for military service, and then they shined in military service. So that makes them real public servants.
Folks, our special guest is Frank Tantone, chairman of the Town of Islip Republican Party, coming off a huge win this past Tuesday. Just huge. Monumental, quite frankly, here on Long Island. And hopefully it's going to help turn Suffolk County around. One problem I see, because I have to take a countywide look at it. The other, in fact, just about every other township wasn't nearly as successful as you were. Any thoughts on the problem? Any thoughts on fixing it? what can we do? Because, it really is a county issue. I mean, we need to, we need to do something here.
Yes, as I said a little bit earlier, the secret to the success in the formula is just hard work. As I've said to my candidates a number of times, no one wants to be walking up and down the hills of Ronkonkoma in the 95-degree heat of July. But when you lay that foundation and then the barrage of mail pieces from the other side comes in late October, you can rest assured that you've done the work that will lead to the success, despite being bombarded with all that paper that shows up in people's mailboxes.
It's incredible. I mean, my wife is a teacher, so she gets that slow, which is very upsetting. That's a whole nother show. And my daughter, who's just newly registered as a Republican, was inundated with Lindsay mail.
Yes.
Bill Lindsay mail.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Speaking of the mail pieces, and I found this to be countywide, but certainly right here in the town of Islip, they were essentially running on a conservative platform.
Right.
That's got to turn, that's got to really be upsetting. I mean, here you've got Musumeci out there, fight a true conservative, true Republican, really standing and fighting for those values that our party stands for. And yet you get this mail piece. It's like, hey, wait a minute. Who's copying who? Anthony, I just got this message from Bill Lindsay, and he's saying the same thing you're saying.
Yeah, one of the things that this show and the media in general is doing now is, in my opinion, making voters much more educated and much smarter. And the point there is, Bill Lindsay, let's use him for example. I live in Bill Lindsay's district too, as you do. And I got more mail from him this year than I've gotten in the prior 10 years.
Yes.
But one piece in particular stood out. It was a piece where he was criticizing Washington for political bickering. Yeah. So the interesting part to that is, okay.
I saved that one.
The ironic part to that is that it's his party that's in Washington bickering. And on top of that, if there's anybody who bickers in Suffolk County government, it's Bill Lindsay. I mean, whatever your opinion about Steve Levy is, it seems the two of them just existed to fight with each other.
Yeah.
So for Bill to be claiming that political bickering is something that he's trying to stop was just incredibly hypocritical.
How is it that you have this party, the Democrats party, generally speaking, it seemingly they can say whatever they want. They can say whatever is going to be pleasing to the ear or to the eye. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the truth, and they can't back it up with their facts or their record. But they can say it, and if they say it often enough, it sinks in, I guess, and people just, pull the lever and they'll vote that way.
Well, it gets back to a little bit what we talked about before, where when you're running a campaign, you really have to pinpoint who's coming out to vote, who's going to be favorable to you, and then get them to the polls. In the town of Islip, our turnout this year was about 28% off the top of my head. So it was critical to make sure that out of that 28%, the majority of those people were the folks that I needed to come out and vote. I like to tell my people within the walls of headquarters, I'm not the president of the Civic Association. I'm trying to get Republican and conservative voters to come vote.
Right.
And that's really the strategy that worked this year.
Right. How can you get that 28% up to 50%? Now, when you say 28%, are you just saying 28% of registered Republicans, or is it 28% total?
28% of the registered voters. And that's not even obviously the whole population.
Yeah.
So if you factor that in, a lot of these races are being decided by 7 or 8% of the people that live in the district they're voting.
I can't figure that out, Frank.
It's crazy.
And yet we're all struggling. Horrible economy. Taxes through the roof. I just don't get it. I don't understand how people can sit at home on election day and do nothing.
It's hard to figure out. But I got to tell you, the part of that makes your point really is we were on the phone as late as 7:30. In fact, I stopped the phone calls at 8 o'clock at night. But we still had a dozen people on the phones at 7:30 or 7:45 calling people to urge them to come out and vote for Tom Croce, et cetera. And many of them, which I guess is a testament to our strategy, told us, I've already been there and I did vote for him already.